in a nation as vast and dynamic as Nigeria. Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals is no small task. For years, financing gaps have hindered progress on critical development priorities. But in November 2025, a decisive step was taken to further change this story. Government leaders, development partners, private sector institutions, and civil society organizations converged in Lagos for a 3-day retreat dedicated to deepening the implementation of Nigeria's Integrated National Financing Framework, better known as INFF. Held from the 24th to the 26th of November, the retreat focused on transforming the INFF from a policy framework into a practical, results-driven instrument. Its goal to mobilize resources for national priorities and accelerate progress on the SDGs.
This retreat comes at a defining moment as we accelerate the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and National Development Plan 2021 to 2025. The demand for coherent, predictable, and resource-oriented financing has never been more urgent. Therefore, the INFF provides us with a roadmap to strengthen the linkages between policy planning, budgeting, and financing that ensures that we mobilize and utilize resources more effectively, more prudently for impact. We will ensure that all financing flows are sustainable and inclusive. That is why the theme for this retreat is very, very apt and strategic. INFF is not merely a technical or policy framework. It is a strategic governance tool that allows us to align every financing decision with Nigeria's aspiration to inclusive, broad-based, and sustainable national development.
Described by many as one of the most important meetings on Nigeria's financing future in recent years, the retreat sought to confront persistent development financing gaps, strengthen domestic revenue, attract private investment, and improve coordination between federal and state governments.
This is a strategy put together by the Nigerian authorities to try to mobilize more resources for development, for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We as European Union, we have partnered from the beginning with the Nigerian authorities together with UNDP, United Nations Development Programme, to support the implementation of this strategy. In a nutshell, this strategy is about mobilizing enough funding for critical infrastructure projects, for basic services such as health and education for the benefit of all Nigerians. And it's a combination of technical assistance, also support to bring investments into Nigeria, how we can partner with private sector, with development banks, with commercial banks, for everybody to contribute to the development of Nigeria.
As part of Nigeria's commitment, appropriate policy, legal and institutional frameworks have been established at the national and at the subnational level to guarantee effective implementation. And one of the key institutional frameworks and policy instrument is the Integrated National Financing Framework, which enables us to map out the entire financing ecosystem in Nigeria, looking at domestic public sources and domestic private sources, as well as international public and private sources of financing sustainable development. The INFF is a tool that enables countries to operationalize their sustainable development priorities and fund its sustainable development. And the overall idea of the INFF is to move from funding sustainable development towards financing sustainable development, because funding is largely inadequate and also unsustainable, but financing is indeed sustainable.
Participants agreed that public resources alone cannot solve Nigeria's development financing challenges. The INFF must serve as a unifying structure, aligning public, private, domestic, and external finance. According to the participants, a key highlight was the strong call for sub-national integration. Most development opportunities and challenges reside at the state level, yet financing strategies remain highly federal-centric. The INFF must now embed state-level approaches, improve FAC utilization, and support states with capacity building, investment readiness, and project preparation. One of the retreat's landmark recommendations was the establishment of a national project preparation facility. This initiative will help states and federal agencies convert promising ideas into bankable projects capable of attracting investors, ensuring that good ideas do not fade due to lack of structure.
One of the key things I realized and the conversations we found here was that the role of the subnationals in this conversation is very critical, and it's not an afterthought. It is everyone at the retreat accepted and agreed that the role of the subnationals needed to be considered right at the heart of the conversations that we're having right now, meaning that at this point in time where the states have investment promotion agencies, there should be a direction pointing them to the INFF approach and model and framework to say that if they are driving investment attraction in their states, they should be able to align those with how they impact on the SDGs. So I found that very instructive. There is also a conversation around collaboration across MDAs and different partners and stakeholders within the Nigerian ecosystem to shake hands together on policy formulation, on idea generation, strategy development, to implement the right sort of activities and programs that can move Nigeria towards attainment of the SDGs by 2030.
This program, the INFF, has provided a platform for bridging the gap between access to finance, the demand side of finance, and the supply side of finance. We have found the value that the INFF brings is integrating impact measurement standards into the processes of SMEs that allows them to align their businesses with the SDG standards. In the investment opportunity mapping, it also allows us to identify SDG-based sectors or sectors that have the higher capacity to impact SDG standards to allow the country to grow forward in terms of private sector capital financing and investment promotion, with a target of meeting the SDG goals.
We've seen that we're largely behind on SDGs, but then we've seen that there's a quick route towards accelerating achievement of the SDGs. So we have seen in this retreat that we need to partner. We need to work together to make sure that we can close up those gaps. We've seen the use of technology and partnership as accelerators to closing up or achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The 36 governors are very passionate about it, because what does this mean for us? It means, for them, it means jobs, it means opportunity, it means, equity, raising up the standard of living of the citizens. And the integrated Nigerian financing framework is the path to achieving the SDGs. So the retreat was very insightful. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but we're up to the task and to the challenge, and we believe that come 2030, we would have reached that last mile and said we've truly left no one behind.
The need for data collection is very, very key when we are talking about the INFF project, and also the place of strategic engagement, collaboration amongst institutions, collaborations amongst bodies, stakeholders to make the project succeed is very, very key. And I look forward to all the relevant bodies beginning to engage in the CSOs, probably seeing them as a vital part of this entire project. And I believe that as CSOs, we have a whole lot to give.
As a participant of the INFF Core Working Group Retreat, it's been such an incredible experience to sit in a room full of different MDAs and different players, and we're discussing how to deepen financing strategies for Nigeria's development. The most sustainable means of raising revenue really is domestic resource mobilization. That is how Nigeria can come up with strategies for financing its own development by itself. And we've been able to speak to strategies around the new fiscal policies that are effective January 2026, and how the FIRS, which would become the Nigerian Revenue Service, would be working with the citizens and other MDAs in ensuring that that is done. It's been very interesting learning about the work that every other person is doing across, and how we need to work as a team, in facilitating synergies around financing work streams in Nigeria.
So basically, I think the essence of this retreat is to really enhance and see how Nigeria can identify different financing instruments to really unlock how to finance the SDGs. Basically looking at the different instruments from the 4 pillars, whether domestic and public, private, and public instrument to really finance the SDGs. Because Nigeria is really an important country, and then once Nigeria starts and then accelerate it in this trajectory that we have already started using the INFF strategy. So the framework is here to really help us identify this financing instrument, from private investment through equities, guarantees, and unlocking those catalytic investment that will really drive and accelerate SDGs, just like echoed by the EU yesterday. Like, the INFF is a deliberate strategy and a framework that will really identify what are those kind of specific investments that are required in each of these sectors to really finance and accelerate and help Nigeria achieve the SDGs.
Participants emphasize that political commitment at the highest level is essential to restore investor confidence. The NIFF National Steering Committee must take a visible, active role in driving reforms, particularly around tax policy, investment alignment, and public finance restructuring.
To pay tax is not easy, so the Revenue Authority must ensure that taxpayers, citizens, and even non-residents comply with the prohibition of the tax laws. Why efficient revenue mobilization matters? Yes. One, it will enhancement of revenue collections. Yes. You can see that year in, year out, FRS do get more taxes, but it's not getting more taxes, but focusing on other areas like non-resident individuals. All Nigerians must pay taxes, but some non-resident individuals that came in do go away without paying taxes. So the focus is on non-resident individuals, and in FRA we have a department, International Tax Department, that control and manage all the taxes for non-resident individuals, be it they earn income in Nigeria or they bring in other investment whereby it generates an income. Also in the area of stamp duties, yes, Stamp Duties Act was created in 1939. That's the oldest tax we have, including the company income tax. You'll be seeing penalties of 20 naira, 20 kobo, 10 naira, etc. But this one has been repealed to align with the current provision of the FRS Establishment Act. Section 40 talk about failure to deduct tax. Any company, any individual that failed to deduct tax accruable to federal government is going to pay the same tax, is going to pay penalty of 10% and interest at prevailing CBN rate plus 5% added by the minister, that is Minister of Finance. So you can see this penalty is more weighty than the one in the stamp duty. Stamp duty is only 20 naira, 10 naira. So Stamp Duty Act was aligned now with the current FRS Act. Also, in terms of capital gain tax, from next year, January 2026, you will not be seeing capital gain tax as a standalone tax. Rather, a company that disposes a chargeable asset and make a gain, that gain will be added to their chargeable income. We have small companies now that have turnover of 100 million and below, or they have a net assets of below 200 million. That's the definition of small companies under the new tax reform bill. All other companies will pay taxes at 30%. Then there is also increase in domestic revenue mobilization through initiatives that broaden the tax base and improve tax compliance. FRS contribute major chunk of revenue to the federal, state, and local government, whereby they support payment for salary to state, infrastructures, to contain all these issues that we have in the country, etc.
The retreat reaffirmed the need to scale innovative financing models such as blended finance, green bonds, impact investment, and public-private partnerships. Alongside this, improving transparency, digitalizing tax administration, and strengthening monitoring and evaluation were seen as critical to expanding fiscal space and ensuring accountability. Experts from the European Union, UNDP, the Bank of Industry, FIRS, and other institutions provided technical presentations highlighting both Nigeria's financing gaps and emerging opportunities.
The EU Global Gateway is the response of the EU to, I guess, I would call it the geopolitical race to development. Because obviously China has the Belt and Road, the US have the US Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, and the country from the Gulf have the Gulf Capital, they call it. So the EU has come up with this, we call it strategy, focusing on 5 specific sectors: digital, climate, green and smart economy, health, and education. So the idea is to mobilize about 300 billion over a 5-year period, and across the globe. As I mentioned, the idea there is to try to connect Europe to the rest of the world, but also mobilize behind the EU efforts, the old EU machinery. By this I mean everything linked to guarantees, private sector, the European banks. Make sure that we all focus our efforts towards some of those 5 different sectors. So in digital transformation, for example, we are ready to invest in fiber optics, data infrastructure, skills for digital economy. Under the climate energy, we have renewable energy, transmission, infrastructure, electrification. So pretty much the whole spectrum of activities that can fall under those 5 categories. What makes, I guess, the EU approach a bit different is that we are holding to what we call it the EU values, which are, I guess, the democratic values, the good governance, equal partnership, Green Deal, security, and private sector investment.
Tony Muhumuza from UNDP stressed the need for coherence in financing systems, while BOI Chairman Dr. Mansour Mukhtar emphasized public finance reforms as key to building trust and catalyzing investment.
INFF becomes extremely important in aligning financing development planning to the SDGs, enabling us to identify the different sources of financing, both public and private. But at the heart of that, of the implementation of the integrated financing framework, is the steering committee, which is a governing body, governing committee that sets direction for the INFF. By the heart of it, further, is the core working group, which is a technical arm of the implementation arrangement of the INFF. We deliberated on several things, starting with the progress we've made in the implementation of the INFF the previous year and the years since the commencement. But we had lots of deliberation about what we can actually do to mobilize development finance for the country, how we can organize ourselves as a country, how development partners can come in, how we can be in position to crowd in private sector. And the deliberation we've actually had has helped us to think beyond the traditional ways we've actually been thinking. Of course, the 2030 agenda is coming to a close very soon, but we are also looking at ways in which we can accelerate momentum and be able to achieve what we can, to be in position to make a dent on the development challenges that Nigeria has, so that we can actually impact on the sustainable development goals.
It's really a nostalgic moment for me, as I remember vividly when this INFF framework was launched in New York in 2022. And I have a particular interest and passion in this because I recognize the strategic role it could play in assisting countries finance their SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goal is an ambitious agenda, of course, requiring huge amount of financing and requiring that this finance be harnessed in a very comprehensive manner and holistic manner and integrated to address national priorities. Now, the beauty of it is that the INFF provides a tool for really strengthening country ownership and enhancing the focus, as well as facilitating coordination to ensure that resources are channeled appropriately to address countries' development priorities. And I'm happy to see the high level of commitment and engagement of key stakeholders in driving this process. Of course, it's not an easy process. It requires a lot of effort in terms of building institutions, changing mindsets, and also adopting new ways of doing business. So it's a journey, and Nigeria was one of the pioneers that championed this approach, along with many other countries that are doing that now. And I think we could draw on the practices, learn from the experiences to see how we can take this forward. The leadership of the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs is very critical in coordinating this process. But of course, as I mentioned, the commitment of the key ministers and government agencies has been helpful, and that needs to continue.
The retreat offered a rare opportunity for stakeholders to shift from theoretical discussion to problem solving. Commitments were made to tackle implementation bottlenecks head-on, ensuring that Nigeria's financing framework translates into real measurable development outcomes. Through the Integrated National Financing Framework, Nigeria is charting a bold path to close development financing gaps, mobilize resources, and accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. The journey has begun, but its success depends on sustained commitment, innovative thinking, and collaboration across every sector of society.